Guru Nation, welcome to episode 171 of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru. My name is Dan Sfera. I am your host for today and every day for the rest of my life. Let's talk about patient recruitment. So, I had a Site Owner Academy. I gotta get these free plugs in there. Shameless plug, Site Owner Academy, my best product. Learn how to be a site owner. In my opinion, my best product. Chris disagrees. He thinks the CRA Academy. Whatever, depends. It's just preferences, okay? Had a Site Owner Academy. Someone asked about patient recruitment. We got into, like I always do, online versus offline. This episode, we're not even going to talk about online. Okay, online is great. Online, you've got Craigslist, which is free or relatively low cost to post. Works for getting patients for your studies. Facebook ads, I mean, we can go on for hours and hours on end about the beauty of running Facebook ads. My digital marketing agency does this all the time for sites, help run your Facebook campaigns. But we're not even going to get into that. We're going to get into offline strategies. Offline. So the absolute best way to recruit patients is, not just my opinion, most people's opinion, your PI's database. Your patient database, your site database, patients you already know, patients that trust you. Ideally, they come from your physician or your PI, who's also their physician. So you want to have a physician PI who also has a private practice. That's the best place to get patients from. And then you hope that the studies you're getting are the patients that are in that PI's database. If they're not, if you're getting studies that are outside of the therapeutic expertise of the PI, but you still want to do the study, which you can if the sponsors allow it, you'll need a sub-investigator who is a specialist in that indication. And so the same thing applies there. You get patients, the best way to recruit for those studies is to get patients from that sub-I. It's getting the patients from their actual caregiver, healthcare provider. It could be a nurse practitioner, it doesn't have to be a doctor, physician assistant, whatever the case may be. Patients that come from the healthcare providers of those patients are much better candidates for your studies and are much more likely to want to join your studies for a variety of reasons. I hope it's self-evident. But if not, I mean, think about it. These people already trust their healthcare providers. They don't know anything about research. It's your job to educate their healthcare providers on research so that they can educate their patients on research, if that makes sense. So your job as a site owner, whether it's your PI, whether it's your sub-I, is to first educate the healthcare provider. Nurse practitioners are great, very underrated when it comes to patient recruitment, very underutilized. You can use them to be sub-Is. Same with physician assistants. For some indications like psychiatry, you can have psychologists. Healthcare providers, okay? Your job as the site owner is not necessarily to educate patients on clinical research. You can do that once the patients come into your site for pre-screening, or if they call you out of the blue or respond to a Craigslist ad or respond to a Facebook ad, or you meet up with them at some patient event in the community or a support group, then it is your job to educate that patient. But your efforts are best spent educating healthcare providers on clinical research and getting them interested in clinical trials so that they, once they understand it, once it clicks, once they realize that clinical research might be a good thing for them to get involved in, then they can start explaining clinical research to their patients. And they will educate them because their patients are much more likely to listen and trust their healthcare provider than they would you, a business person or a site owner. Even if you're a doctor. If you're not their doctor, they're not going to trust you as much. They're going to be looking at you like you have some hidden agenda, and clinical research has some stigmas around it as far as guinea pigs and things like that. So don't waste your time on that. Waste your time, or spend your time, it's not wasted, on educating healthcare providers. So if it's your own physician, and I have a video on this. If it's your own physician, my PI is part of he owns a huge medical practice. We used to be in the same building as them. We moved because we needed more space, but they're about 5 minutes away from us. They have my PI who's there. He's the owner. They have, I want to say 10 psychiatrists, 5 psychologists, 5 nurse practitioners. It's a lot of healthcare providers there. Every hour, and all they do is psychiatry. Any given hour during the week, they have maybe 15 to 20 patients in the waiting room. So rather than going and trying to talk to every patient that's there like a madman, and then probably getting rejected by most of them because they're looking at me like, who am I and what am I trying to sell them? My job was and is, and a lot of it is Monica now, to educate these 20 healthcare providers on clinical research, get them interested in participating, show them the benefit of research from a business perspective, show them the benefits of clinical research from a prestige perspective, diversify your income perspective, create multiple streams of revenue perspective. That's my job, and it's much easier to do that because those 20 people, while I may not know them well, I may know like a handful of them well, they at least see me. They see me there. Well, they used to see me there every day when I was there, but now they know me. So I'm not a stranger. They know who I am. They vaguely know that I do research, and we start talking about how they can be involved in research as a sub-investigator and eventually as a principal investigator and a psychometric rater, or if you're doing other therapeutic indications, assessments, whatever assessments that are required there. This is how you get patients interested in participating in your studies. And the problem is it sounds easy. It's actually a full-time job. Okay, you can try to half-ass it. It's better than not doing it at all. But you really need somebody, and that somebody's probably going to be you initially, the site owner or the site director, to follow up with these healthcare providers as often as possible. Follow up as often as possible, because you may go over a study opportunity or a new study you have, or just even on a higher macro level, what clinical research entails at a lunch and learn with them, which I've recorded one. It was a 1-on-2 session with 2 nurse practitioners and me, kind of giving them a overview of research. You can find that on YouTube if you want. But what are they going to do, really? I mean, they're going to listen to you talk for 15 minutes. They're going to eat sandwiches that you bring. Yes, sometimes you got to bring lunch to your own healthcare providers' offices to get them to listen, right? And then you got to follow up. So let's say you have 15, let's say you have 10 people at one lunch and learn, and then you go to another and 3 show up, and then you go to one more and you get 5, right? So from those 18 or whatever number I just came up with, half of them are just there because they want to be polite, because they can't tell you no, because you're technically part of their group. This is when they are affiliated with you or maybe affiliated with your PI. So they didn't want to be rude to you because they realize that their PI, and especially in our case where our PI is their boss, and if he tells them that they should go to this lunch and learn to learn about research, they're doing it because, they feel obligated to do it. Half of them are not going to be interested, and you can tell right away which ones those are. That's fine. Let them eat their sandwiches. Be pleasant. At least you're planting the seed. So maybe 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 72 months from now, maybe they change their mind and they are interested. And this is where the following up comes in. But let's say those half are not interested. That's fine. You only need a couple to be interested to start referring patients to you. So now you got to follow up regularly and actively with the ones that are interested and have expressed interest. Now you got to do one-on-one follow-ups with each of them to figure out, because some of them are not comfortable talking in a group setting of what they really want to gain out of research. So you got to go one-on-one with them. So set up separate meetings. Yes, it's a lot of work. Does this sound like a lot of work? This is not easy stuff. You need I told you it's full time. You need to set up one-on-one meetings, lunch, dinner, coffee, whatever. You don't even need to bring food. If they're interested, they're going to want to hear you out. And it only takes 5 to 10 minutes at the most. One-on-one, figure out what they want to accomplish from research. Are they just trying to test it out and see if it's something for them? Are they looking to diversify their income? Are they looking to possibly launch a part-time career, which may eventually become a full-time career to replace what they're currently doing? I don't know. You don't know. You can't assume. You got to ask. Got to find out. Then do everything in your power to help them accomplish that. And that's not going to happen over a lunch and learn. That's not going to happen over a 5-minute in-person meeting and another 5-minute in-person meeting and another. This is following up regularly. Start off small. Take baby steps. Tell them what a 1572 is. Tell them what a delegation log is. Give them GCP training. Have them do the GCP training modules. Takes about 2 hours. Have them do the Protecting Human Research Participants NIH, National Institute of Health module, so they can learn how to protect human research subjects, which are their patients, or they're going to be their patients. I mean, it's a lot of work, okay? But if you plant these seeds and tend to your garden, it will start producing fruits, okay? And the fruits are patients that are going to come to your site and enroll in your studies. So you got to do this for as many healthcare providers as possible in your area that treat patients that express some kind of interest in research. And you won't know who's interested in research and who's not when A, they don't even understand what research is, so that's where the initial lunch and learn comes in. And B, maybe they are interested in it, but now they don't know what's in it for them. Those are the two key components. Let them know that it is an opportunity. Let them know how you fit into that opportunity and how you're going to make their life easier. And number 2, let them know what's in it for them. Career, extra side income, prestige. Start getting to know some of the pharma people on the R&D side, not just the sales like they're accustomed to. Be multifaceted, private practice and research. There's a lot that healthcare providers who are interested in research would be interested in pursuing further if they knew what was in it for them. So that's your job. And that's your job to follow up constantly. Now, it's much easier when they are healthcare providers within your own network, meaning, like in my example, we're lucky to have and be affiliated with a huge medical practice with all these providers. And it also happens to help that our PI, who's a part owner of our research clinic, is their boss. And so if he says something, they kind of have to do it, or at least they feel obligated to do it. But he never tells them you have to refer patients. He told me that's my job. My job is to make sure I teach them about research and get them interested in it. And when I really think about it, I mean, that's all of our jobs as site owners. So it's not always going to be that easy where you just have all the providers there and they're going to come to your lunch and learn. Sometimes you're going to have to go out and develop those contacts. Maybe your PI doesn't really have any colleagues, or maybe he doesn't have, or she doesn't have as much influence over their colleagues as in my example, but they still know some people. So you still got some leads. It just may not be as easy as what I just described. And in those cases, it's really the same thing. You set up a lunch and learn. You get as many people there. These healthcare providers are used to sales reps coming in, so they're accustomed to the idea of someone bringing in lunch or coffee and then just talking about, usually it's about drugs and prescribing more of it. But in your case, they're going to have the food and the coffee part, but then you're going to come out of left field with clinical research, and you may or may not pique their interest, right? And if you don't, that's fine. You're not going to convert every lead. That would be insanity of you to expect that everyone that you talk to about research is going to be head over heels about it. That's not the way anything works. Okay, if I stood on this corner right here in the parking lot and offered everyone that walked by me $1 bill, guarantee you not everyone is going to take it. There's going to be people that are going to tell me no thanks, and they're going to walk away. There's going to be people that ignore me. There's going to be people that think that I want something. And that's me literally giving money to people. So what makes you think that every single person you talk to about research that is a busy healthcare provider is going to be all in on your idea? That's just not the way it works, right? What you want is a few every time you go out to be somewhat interested, and then follow up with them. This is why this is a full-time job. Yes, it is possible initially when you're getting started to do this part-time while you're doing all the other stuff and wearing many hats as a site owner. But ultimately, you need someone, community outreach expert, call them whatever you want, patient recruitment, community outreach. They need to be doing this constantly, every day. You need to be making sure it's getting done. And you need metrics. You need key performance indicators. How many people which healthcare providers did you talk to today that are new? Which ones did you follow up with that are existing leads? What did they say? Are they interested in participating in any studies? Are they on the delegation log? Are they sub-Is? Do they want to be PIs? What do they want? And then follow up. Follow up. That is offline patient recruitment in a nutshell. Now, when it's healthcare providers that are lukewarm leads, meaning you door knocked a medical building one day, and by the way, this applies not just to patient recruitment, but this also applies to sites looking for new PIs to join their practice, to join their network. Or looking for your first PI. The same thing applies here, but for this topic, the context around this is patient recruitment, how to increase it. What I just spent the last 19 minutes describing, there is no better recruitment strategy than that. Trust me, I've been doing this for 13 years. Nothing works better from a patient recruitment perspective than what I just described. There's also nothing more difficult than what I just described. Running a Facebook ad doesn't compare. Posting a Craigslist ad doesn't compare. Getting a booth at a patient event or a walk or a health fair doesn't compare. One-on-one. Initially one-on-many to filter out, so a lunch and learn with as many healthcare providers as you can. filter, then it becomes one-on-one. Nothing works better than that. Now, if you literally have nowhere to start and you're just knocking on doors in offices, guarantee you spend an entire day going to different medical buildings, you knock on 100 doors, and you talk to maybe 25 physicians. That'd be a really good day too. Most of the time you're going to get the gatekeepers. You could drop a card. If you're lucky, maybe that PI will call you. Maybe he or she has heard about research and is interested. Maybe. Most of the time they're going to say, okay, leave the card, thank you. Sometimes they're going to say no soliciting allowed, whatever. You got to expect that to be the case. Let's say you get 10 of those 100 door knock physicians for that day to actually talk to you that day for like 2 minutes minimum, right? If they're busy, if they're not busy, it might be a 20-minute conversation. I've done this many times. If they are busy, it might be a 2-minute conversation. But you can kind of tell, you can gauge their interest level based on what they say and what questions they ask. And if they're even willing to take that meeting with you, that's obviously a strong indicator of their interest in research. So now you got to follow up, whether it was a 1-minute meeting or a 20-minute meeting, whether they were lukewarm or red hot about research. Nothing, let me say that again, nothing at all will happen if you do not follow up. Zip, zero, zilch, nothing is going to occur if you don't follow up. Ideally, you want to follow up as soon as possible, and don't let too much time elapse from your initial meeting to your follow-up. Try to get their cell phone number. That'll tell you their interest level right away. If you ask for their number and they give you the office line, lukewarm. If you ask for the number and they say, let me text you my number right now, what's your number? Red hot, or at least hot. Follow up. That's the bottom line. It's not easy. It's difficult. Patient recruitment is difficult. Patient recruitment's not easy. Finding physicians to work with in clinical research is not easy. Educating people about clinical research is not easy. But guess what? This is much easier and more efficient than one-on-one educating patients. Which, by the way, you should, when you have time, do that as well, depending on the indications. There's places where patients congregate. I'm going to use the example of psychiatric trials again. There's actually facilities where these patients live, where it does make sense for you to go in there and one-on-one talk to patients, but that should not replace networking with the physicians or other healthcare providers and letting them then, following up with them to make sure that they educate their patients on research. And it starts with getting the provider interested in participating in research. You got to follow up. Don't just take it at their word that they're going to talk to their patients and bring some flyers to my office. You want to do that. If they tell you bring flyers to my office and I'll leave it in the waiting room for patients, obviously you'll do that because it costs you nothing to do. It's very nice of them. But don't leave it at that. Don't stop there. Follow up with that physician. Figure out what they want. Are you really interested in participating, or you just want to refer patients? Because that's fine. If you just want me to leave the flyers here, that's fine. But what do you want? Do you want to be a sub-investigator? Do you eventually want to be a principal investigator? Do you want to do studies in your office? I can help you do that. What do you want? And go from there, right? So that's really what you need to do to recruit patients offline. And notice we didn't even talk about health fairs and advocacy groups. All that stuff works too. All of that works too. But nothing replaces educating the healthcare providers and figuring out how you can help them get involved in clinical research. So that is episode 171. And we can do an entire other podcast on the patient communications, how to recruit patients by going one-on-one to them. And we can do another podcast on online strategies. This one is just how to get patients from healthcare providers in clinical research. Thank you, Guru Nation. We'll talk later. Until next time. Bye-bye.